everybody, welcome to 1v1. I am your host, Eddie V. Thank you guys for joining us here on Boss Rush Games. Of course, joining me is the boss man himself, the salute, Mr. Corey Derrick.
Hello, I will be playing the role of producer and sidekick tonight. Just for everybody out there,
And the one that's bouncing with the hype, yes, it is the one, the only. You guys have seen him on Boss Rush Games podcast, on Boss Rush podcast. The one, the only, Antonio Guillen.
What's up, everybody? It's Hypecaster here, aka Antonio. Oh, strike that, reverse it. It's Antonio here, aka Hypecaster. How's everybody doing? I'm sorry, I had 2 sips of beer. My bad. Off the wall today. You got another stick of dynamite right here.
Yes, everybody. So we are going to be talking to Antonio, getting to know him and his content. He is one of the contributors to the Megadads and other things that you guys will soon be able to learn. So we're going to hop right into it. Before we actually start anything, Antonio, how did you get into gaming? Like, can you tell us a little bit about your gaming history?
Absolutely. I love to talk to you about my gaming history. But first, I do want to thank everybody who has supported Boss Rush and who has listened and said that they appreciated me being on the show. And I'm one of the shows. So I just want to thank everybody for listening and for all the tweets and for the questions that you guys brought forward. So kicking it all off, right? Gaming. I have my little notes here. It all starts with a Christmas night. Okay. I don't know if it was actually Christmas, but it was a Christmas party, right? And I got called over, and it was my dad and my parents and a family friend. And they call me over and they give me this gift, right? And it's this box, and I open it, right? And there it is. A Nintendo NES. Okay. So I freak out immediately. This family friend unfortunately passed away. We miss him dearly, but I wish I could tell him that at the time I didn't understand that he getting me that system, not my parents, he got me that first system, was going to spark my love for gaming in a way that I never got to express to him, before he went. So I just want to thank you, Walter. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I remember playing the hell out of that thing. I mean, I was doing the Duck Hunt, Mario Brothers. And I mean, everybody remembers their first system, right? So that's the key moment. Somebody's got to buy you it because you're a kid. You don't got your money. I always think about this, right? As kids, you don't got the money, right? But you do get bought stuff probably, or ask for things and things like that. It's so out of your control what's going to shape your early years, because maybe somebody gifts you something, especially early, you don't know what you want. So it's like, oh, what's the hot thing? Maybe I've heard so many stories about people getting a game gifted to them from somebody at some store, and it ends up being some, niche game that nobody ever else played. And it's like, oh, my first game was Neptunia Star, and it was on the Atari, and I loved it, and nobody else played it because it was on the bottom of the bin, So it's just odd. So that's what started for me. Shout out to everybody who got anyone a console. These parents who spend that extra money on that latest tech in the 80s that really, got us off the ground. So that's where it all started. I don't know how much you want me to go. I don't want to overstep with the timeline here, but that's what kicked it off.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
To be fair, this show is all about you, Antonio. You are the reason we are here tonight. So
I am humbled and honored, sir.
You can say whatever you want. Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised you're not naked.
Oh, are we? Are we doing this? Are we live?
I mean, I'm not wearing pants, so.
Well, if you want me to get, are we doing it? Are we doing it? I got my knit. Ready to go? All right, you just let me know. Don't mess up. Oh my God!
No. We're gonna get copyright.
Go, Corey. Let's go.
No, it's cold.
Let's go, Corey. Let's go, Corey. Let's go, Corey. You're not gonna just leave us bros out here. I know you're not.
I am.
Bossman is in the production.
Is this streamed live? It's not, right?
No, we are not live.
All right, good. You better hide that tit just in case of that. Okay. It's gotta be above. All right. So anyway, so Gaming is shaped by kind people. Okay,
really
people who
do
buy
this?
you stuff because you don't have cash. That's step one. All right, that's gaming. You just stop and weigh in whenever you want. But basically, the next note I have here, right, is I remember at the certain time. This is what really differentiates like people like us from other people who kind of like eventually stop with the gaming. Right, at a certain point, you have to discover not just the game. You don't just sit there and play the game and that's it. You start talking to your friends about it. You start, sharing those bonded moments of, wow, like Mario 64, like, wow, like look at this Final Fantasy 7, like, like basically like new tech, like everything's 3D, like all these wow moments, all these like, oh, did you get that secret? Like, what's the blood code? Like all these like things that start to stitch you together. But I think what we have in common is you start getting into the industry, like game reviews, people giving their opinions, you learning how to form your own opinions. And I think certain people have taken to that and a lot of people don't. Like a lot of podcasts talk about the people who buy Call of Duty and a couple sports titles and the PlayStation, and they own like 3-5 games the whole lifespan, and they always get mad and that's it. So instead of that, you can get more immersed into it. For me, I remember being on the internet like old school days, just reading reviews. EGM has been like a huge part of my life. I had Electronic Gaming Monthly print magazine saved from, I don't recall now. I wish I would have like wrote it down. I thought I was going to have them forever. I moved and I had them in my mom's van. And
I still have my books.
I have a lot. I had a lot. My mom threw them in the alley, and within 15 minutes they were gone. And I'm like, "Where's my thing?" She's like, "Oh, I needed them out of my car." I'm like, "Those were one of my only prized possessions." I was moving a lot at the time, so that was all I was moving. I'm like, I don't need my clothes. I don't need the appliances. I need my EGMs. So I don't know if I'll ever forgive her, but like I had EGMs and I read them at a certain point. Reading reviews supplemented me playing games. So I felt like I was playing the games myself almost from just hearing all of these opinions on them. And then I discovered podcasting shortly after that because the reviews led me to IGN. And then I never thought, hey, I'm going to click on this podcast thing. I would think I was a late adopter. Like I didn't download the app. Someone had to explain to me what this is. Like these were, with every new technology, like our generation is exposed to like, here's the internet, like go wild.
Well, it's really weird because when you talk about getting into podcasts and people finding out about podcasts, pretty much back in the day when you listen to radio, that was podcasting. And you would never think about that. Even when you listen to talk radio today and you listen to their talk segments and everything, they're kind of podcasting in a certain sense. I know for me, like learning about podcasts was through oneup.com, and they would do the One Up show. And over time that grew into a podcast like the One Up podcast. And then when they started doing video form segments showing things and having discussions, that was like the video podcast. That was like almost early 2002, 2005, 2004, around that time.
I don't know if you remember, but when One Up started to go down, they had that initiative that was kind of like their last hurrah where they went into video, and they were pioneers in a sense, and they kind of floundered the whole thing because they didn't know how to monetize it. It was like, how do we get you to pay for this? Kind of like IGN has a subscription but not many people buy to like get rid of ads, and that's not ideal. So it's all about the advertising space, and that's how they kind of figured that out. But for them, they started to release a video. It's almost like a electronic version of a print magazine, and you would flip through it. It was kind of like a visual PDF, and I loved it. and they also had videos embedded, and it would have features, and they were really well done.
I mean,
it didn't last very long.
That's what the digital version of Game Informer is now too, right? Like that's just like I mean, I still get the paper copies. I'm not, downloading an app to read Game Informer, but like you go in there and that's exactly what it is like they'll have like the interview clips and like trailers and visual screenshots is what they call them, but it's like 15 seconds of gameplay for a game that they previewed, or some stuff like that. And like I remember that I was like, oh, I bet they probably took that from 1UP or something. Like I just remember that reminding me of 1UP.
Yeah, because at that time Ziff Davis was kind of like on top of the thing. I think once GamePro closed, and then Ziff Davis decided to close EGM and get rid of a lot of their editors. That's when you kind of started to know that print was somewhat going away, and going on the internet to get your video game news was becoming a bigger thing. But like you said, the monetization of it, a lot of companies had to survive off of ads. Like if you really were going to have an ad spot, you was going to have to pay some money and stuff. And so, I hear what you're talking about, Antonio.
Like, I'm very excited about, I talk about new technologies. It's like, here's a box, plug it into the TV. Like, here's the internet, go like chat with people and read articles. Mm-hmm. It's like things that were unheard of. We grew up with these technologies. Like when I was born, personal computing was barely at its infancy, and our generation has grown right along with it. So every new thing was new to us, and our parents kind of understood it only because we would sit down and explain it to them and tell them to buy it. And like, it's just insane. And now, we look at things and forget, how fast things, I think we're moving. I feel like it's slowed down, but there's just innovation all the time. And what's the future? You have all of us with access to 4K cameras and lighting, and we're doing our own, basically YouTube or Patreon stuff where it's like, the highest quality content you could possibly imagine by kids in their basement. You know what I mean? Just toking that silly grass and talking games with their friends and having a million viewers. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. They just legalized here in Illinois. I hope they lower my taxes. But basically, I digress. It's incredible where people are going with what we're given, And I'm excited. Like I found through Kickstarters and Patreon. Have you guys read or subscribed to Switch Player Mag or what's the other one? It's like an indie print mag that's still going on, and you get to get the digital version or the print. It's Switch Player, and I forget the other one is.
Then they just like kind of do like a soft relaunch with a new cover and everything.
There's another one too, but yeah, there's two major ones that I know about, and I'm still interested in that. I want to support that. And before they knew it, EGM and GamePro and all these people, I would look at who wrote the reviews, and before I even knew that, like nowadays, what's the story? Find someone you agree with. Find somebody that thinks with your mind that is going to like what you like, to get your recommendations on a very, very personalized niche level, right down to you, like the person that you vibe with. And that's what happened. Like I started reading the 3 scores. I'm like, oh, that guy, nah, like this guy knows what's up. He gave it an 8 and everybody else gave it a 6. I know exactly what's going on there. And it's just like, it's a beautiful thing. So
it's the rise of these like micro communities that like have a passion for these creators, we see it on a really small level. We have a couple people that just like watch everything, and then you have the people that trickle in from like guest appearances, or we have some guests on this weekend, and like that's how you kind of reach out. But like look, our numbers spiked last week when we said that Antonio was coming on, right? And they did. And they spiked again when we had Luke on, because we're expanding the reach and we're having people on that people like to watch, and that's, that in a kind of a selfish way, that's helped us a lot, but like it also speaks to the community that everybody that's been on something has built too,
No,
right.
Absolutely. It was insane because when I started finally going into IGN's podcast, which had been running for years at that point, but I didn't know existed. I was driving a lot for work, and I had found Podcast Beyond first. And I found, everything Greg Miller was doing and all that. And I wasn't a big PlayStation person at the time, but I'd listened to every episode. And then when I was done, I went back and listened to old episodes, and I just filled myself because I liked the personality. I liked, the tone of what was going on, and I stuck with it. And it superseded what I actually owned. Like, I didn't do much with that information because I didn't have that as my primary ecosystem. So it speaks to it's a testament to what you could do, building community, and people will watch for you. So many people who pop into the streams of people are like, I'm not here for the game, I'm here for the streamer.
Yeah.
So it's cool that, you can vibe with people. And if you're small enough and really can have that community focus, actually make friends to that kind of level. So yeah, it's really interesting. I got into, Unlocked and all the IGN stuff, and then somehow, some way, figured out that I think it was through the Facebook groups, actually, people being fans of the podcast, connecting with them and saying, hey, I have a podcast. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. And then just meeting everybody, like you already mentioned, Luke's amazing. His Xbox Expansion Pass podcast is right on point. He does a one-man show with these awesome interviews. And that is surprisingly my primary Xbox thing, that and the Xbox Drive. And they unseated the IGN stuff. I don't have time in my schedule now. And they've really unseated a power player, one of the top Xbox podcasts, because I was able to make friends with these people and, just make sure that they are supported and wanting to get behind them. And it's quality. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I like that stuff, even more. And it's just crazy. Being able to connect, being able to participate in the content is a huge thing. And I just think that, the algorithms and things are keeping people from getting the recognition they deserve. So many people out there, you could probably pick 100 indie people that deserve those, million views or whatever on YouTube, more so than something that's been going for 10 years. And it's just hey, we put it on and, we have our fan base and they're kind of baked in and they are coming no matter what. So try something new, people. If you're listening, tune on in to Boss Rush and all of our available podcasts. Available now where podcasts are sold.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when we decided to do, we were doing Nintendo Power Block and Arsenal X for a while, right? And we did that because of time. We consolidated the shows into the NX show, which eventually became Boss Rush Podcast, right? Because we didn't have a name, so we were just hey, NX, why not? And it was so I read some of the letters. If you go back to some of those early episodes of the NX show, I read some of the letters to Ed and to Jesse and Ray, and I was people are ridiculously mad that we combined the shows because they love the shows separate and how they were. And it was we've gotten we've never had negative stuff over there, right? Really, because our community's kind of small and a lot of people are pretty positive, right? And we had some mean letters from people, and it was they're why would you do that? The show is so good. Why wouldn't you just make the time? And I get people, sometimes people just don't understand how much time this takes, but
make the time, bro.
And at the same time, we were doing so many other things, and we were on Arsenal X, for example, we were finding ourselves talking about, what if Xbox starts publishing smaller games on Switch, right? And we went into a Nintendo conversation, and we found ourselves having to stop specific conversations to keep ourselves on track, right? And of course, now we have Xbox games on Switch, so those conversations were warranted. But people were upset, and so that's why we brought Nintendo Power Block back first, right? Because people wanted that show. And bringing Arsenal X back started as a joke, but then, Deshaun started tweeting at us, and we had a couple other people tweet at us and message us in our Facebook community, and like, yeah, you should bring back your Xbox show. It was pretty good, right? And like, you know, and then Deshaun's like, yeah, you should bring it back, and like, I expect to see, you know, Hypecaster on there, and Ray and Luke, and like, I was like, oh, man. So like the last 2 weeks, like I said, I've been transferring everything over that, you know, I can over to Boss Rush, because our community wants the Xbox show back, right? And that, it feels good in a way, right? To know that your community is behind you specifically, but like, it also has been kind of a challenge to like figure out scheduling and how are we going to do this? Like, who's going to host? Are we all three still going to be on it? Are we going to have a new kind of rotating cast, you know? And obviously, Antonio, you have an open invitation to be on that show whenever you want.
Thank you, sir.
But, you know, like, we have a lot of things to figure out before we start the show at episode 81, you know? And it's really fun to see Boss Rush grow as a team and as a unit, and kind of bringing back these smaller things that we were working on, and creating new things, and streaming more. And it's fun to see a community grow like that and be behind you as a creator personally. And like, you know, I don't know, man, I don't know where I was going with that, but it was just like, it's kind of nice to see a community grow and be fun and get into it when we have cool guests on like Antonio and Luke, you know, like, I don't know, man. It's just fun.
The passion that we ended up having, and the connection that we ended up thirsting for, and all of our motivation eventually brought all of us into this realm that now is known as like content creators. I remember when that term wasn't thrown around every 5 minutes like it was now. Like as these technologies came out, when YouTube launched, again, initially niche, and then getting like where there's a billion players out there, and people who got in early and started building large communities because they stuck with it. Like, it's just amazing what they've been able to do, and what we've all collectively been able to build, and it's just so much.
And that's sometimes is the challenge of it, is maintaining it. If like when you build big, you got to keep that idea of how to stay big or stay consistent, because a lot of content creators in years past, they felt that burnout because they got to keep, you know, they got to come up with a show, they got to come up with an idea, they got to record everything, they got to go back and edit, you know, they got to deal with technical problems if there is some, and everything. And it's just like, how do you put something out for everybody to see where there's other people doing the same thing as you're doing, or even better? Like, their production might be better and everything.
I do want to say, like, the biggest part of creating content is editing, right? Like, it's just like, you want to make sure that you're doing it right. And like, I think we would have a lot more time to do stuff if you know, there wasn't so much to edit. Like, if we just had an editor on the team, it would be like a way easier time, and I would say more fun. But also, like, when I get into the mindset of like, okay, it has to be this way, it has to be this way, it has to be this way, it kind of like, I don't know, calms me in a way to edit everything and make sure everything is like ready to go.
It is a lot. Like, some of us fell in love with what was going on and wanted to imitate what we already saw people to do, because saw people doing, because we loved it, and took the step ourselves. So like Ed was saying, it is a lot to it. I was recently on a show with Johnny Casino. He is relaunching Radio is Lame, and talking to him about what it takes to create content. We were BFFs immediately. I was like, I love you, bro. Let's get together. Let's make something happen.
I was going to try to get him on Arsenal X, because
I'll put in a good word for you. Don't worry about it. We're BFFs now.
Yeah, because he was streaming Celeste, late at night, and I was watching him stream, and I was helping him like, okay, you need to jump here, do this. I've never played Celeste, but it's one of those you can figure out what to do by watching and try to convey it in a literal sense without vocally saying it to him. I was just like, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, and just like me and him was going back, and we were just having really fun. It was hard though, because I was just like, oh, I need you to come on Arsenal X, because he was an Xbox player, and I'm just like, yeah, you need to come on Arsenal X, and we need to have a chat.
Johnny Casino, everybody, look it up. Radio is lame. Like, I was talking to him about like the mix. It's called the marketing mix. So basically, if you want to create something in the marketplace, you usually have to be the fastest, so you can like get things out quickly and be like right on time with the latest topic. Your quality has to be better. So, your audio or your video, sound not only passable, but maybe if you're lucky, you can, really make it sound good. That's a big one for me. Just when I'm choosing what to listen to. You can be more unique, so have a very niche lens, which I think is really important. Like you say, a lot of people, especially like the Greg Millers and people who have made it, they do say, we get asked all the time, how do you get into it? How do you start? Where do you start? And they're like, don't be IGN. Don't be like the jack of all trades, master of none. Find a niche. If you want to break into the industry, be the Monster Hunter guy, and like that's all you do, and you make Monster Hunter videos all day, and then you get into the industry because you're the sports guy and you like FIFA, or that's a big one. But let's say you like rugby. Now you guys have such passion, you let that overflow, and you're like, the people want it. We have to do the Xbox show. We have to do Nintendo. We have to do this podcast. And I hope for you guys that you are having fun, Corey, because that is something. I've been there where it starts being like more work, and it's kind of sucks because you're like doing so much. Try not to let any of the balls drop. Trying to please everybody. Trying to make sure you get a couple less angry letters this month, and just try to do it. For the best, for the fun.
To be fair, I think like we did bring back. We are bringing back Arsenal X by the time this episode goes up. It'll probably be well into one or two returning episodes, right? But what is that? How are you holding that can?
Like this.
But when people started asking us to bring Nintendo Pow Block back specifically, Ed and I had a side conversation, and we were like, Ed and I met through the NVC Facebook group, right?
NVC.
And I started a segment with the original group I was doing content with, DNA Network, started a small YouTube video series called The Pow Block. And
I remember Pow Block.
Which you can see on Boss Rush Games now. The classic Pow Block episodes are all up there now, all 21 of them. But the first 5 episodes was me and my friend Joey, who I still talk to this day, speaking of Monster Hunter, obsessed with Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy 14. Those are like the only 2 games he plays right now.
Nice.
But Ed, you remember those episodes where like we would get questions from various members of the Facebook group when we were asked for questions, and he would ask them to me and I would answer them, and that would be the segment, right? It'd be somewhere between 4 and 10 minutes long, right? And then when DNA kind of disbanded and we kind of weren't sure what we were doing with it, I still wanted to talk about Nintendo stuff because that's how I kind of wanted to get into it, right? I started writing about Nintendo stuff I started right when Greg Miller and all them left IGN to start Kind of Funny, right? I think that was a lot of people's kind of push, right? I think a lot of people wanted to do it, and then
Isn't that odd?
when you see when you see a group of people like that who are successful where they're at go out on their own and do their own thing, right? It's like, well, if they can do it, like why don't we start, right? And like I just remember a bunch of people starting around that time, and so like I started writing about Nintendo. I wanted to do Nintendo stuff. I wanted a Nintendo show like Beyond, right? And at the time, NVC was kind of flaky. It wasn't every week. It was kind of like, whatever. And I started listening to a couple other Nintendo podcasts that weren't, they were okay, but like I started DNA, and then we started talking about Nintendo stuff, and then it kind of turned into, we actually had a really successful Destiny podcast there for a long time, called DNA Weekly Strike. And I started playing a lot of Destiny, and it got to the point where that was the show. That was like the whole channel was the Destiny stuff, right? And so we were doing that, and then we started doing a bunch of other things. Like we did a beer review show called A Toast to Beer, because my friend Joey, we call him Toast for some reason. And we had a movie kind of review show called Real Talk, and we started a base video game thing. But I wanted to do Nintendo stuff, and so we started the POW Block. And then once DNA kind of disbanded, Ed and I were kind of talking back and forth, and I thought, what if we just kind of started talking about Nintendo? And that's how POW Block started. And then, when we decided to end it and start the NX show, like we kind of missed it, and selfishly, like, okay, people wanted it back, but I think it was more of a selfish thing to bring it back, because that's how we met and how we started and how we became friends was through this show. And it was kind of like a selfish thing, to be quite honest. And, it's doing great. But like, that's kind of like, I love Boss Rush, right? I love everything we're doing, but that's like the crux of our love for this, right? Is like POW Block. And it's crazy because like now when Arsenal X comes back and POW Block and now Boss Rush is going to hit episode 50 when POW Block hits 200 and when Arsenal X hits 100. Like that's
a lot of content.
They're going to hit all of those major milestones within at the same time. And I don't know, man. I just, we miss POW Block, and like you said, it's good to find a niche, right? But like, I think we're all too passionate about too many things that we want to do that content, and we found a rhythm that works. We found a time to do it all. We've found time to kind of, because like when you do content, like you said, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. You want to be consistent with what you have, and you want to do it right, and not burn yourself out, and there was a point where I kind of felt that way probably 3 or 4 months ago, right? And then when we moved and Nerds Gone Rogue wrapped up, and Ed and I were doing Boss Rush podcast and with Jesse and Ray, and everything just kind of like fell into place at one time. And I took a week off, kind of reset everything, and was like, and Ed and I had some side conversations, and we were like, okay, what can we do to not overpromise and underdeliver? What are our goals? What do we want to do? And since then, we've been pretty consistent. We've reached out to a ton of people, and it's been a blast. And like you said, Antonio, having fun is like the most important thing you can do when creating content. And it's been extremely fun the last few months.
I think, it's just when we tell content creators, like, of course, yes, to have fun, know that when you get into creating content, it's a big investment, not only of time and money, but you got to make sure that, part of the investment is sacrifice. So sometimes you may not be able to hang out with friends. You may have to try to figure out a schedule that's going to work if you're dating somebody, like if you have a relationship or a child, because when there's other things that may affect you creating your content, it may get hard on how do you go in, record, do what you need to do, edit, and then get it out there on a consistent basis. There's a lot of factors I think a lot of content creators have to think. If you do have the time to create it, make sure that that time is valuable. Make sure that sacrifice that you're going to make to this, to make this content, is worth it. Because you want to make sure that you have a right balance. in creating content. That's the thing that we did on NGR and that we did on Codename X. We balance our time and make sure that when we come together and we record, we're going to have a ball and we're going to give them all that they need. If there's a schedule problem, we all could find out which works for whatever, get our planning in, and then agree on that planning and then go about it.
I respect you guys so much for being able to do that. The only people that I've seen that come anywhere close is like a Rooster Teeth, where they have a billion things, but they also have like a billion people. And you look at their like shows, and it's literally like 80,000 shows that they have. Like, oh, here's the podcast where we talk about fried chicken, and it's like that's it, and that's all. It's so odd, but I really like your the energy. It's hard to keep it up for so many different topics. And yeah, I mean, I'm passionate too. I want to talk about everything. And I do. I want to focus myself because I only have time to do one little bit thing here, one little bit thing there. So I really wanted to find something that was just something I knew that I could do that nobody else could do, which is kind of like where I am now. And sneak peek, I just have a lot of things in the cooker that are tailored about what I love, especially about gaming. And it kind of goes along with my brand, like Hypecaster, because I believe that the excitement and the anticipation of what's coming is the best part of gaming. Before the actual game that ends up releasing is never going to compare, hardly ever going to compare to what your dream version of that thing is. Like, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to get you excited for the future? Every year we talk about, well, I hope we still talk about E3, and I love it. It's like the blockbuster Christmas like of gaming, and it's like, I love the award shows and game awards and where we're getting this industry to all together, where it's like all these people with a passion, let's get behind it and grow it. And I am trying to spread the hype. You know what I mean? Like, let's let our imaginations run wild and say what could be. And that's the best part for me. It's the hype. Like, every game trailer that's really done well is like, that's my bread and butter right there. I love game trailers. I do these videos every once in a while that are just like hype videos. It's just like, here's Nintendo's 2018, and like put music to it and like create like a hype clip of like, here's the look back at the year. And that's my thing. And I have some new stuff coming out. I did want to share my like first experience because it's remarkably similar to what Corey was saying. I was in one of the Facebook groups. I don't know which one it was. It could have been an IGN group. Could have been a kind of funny group or something. And I was like, someone was like, who wants to start a podcast or whatever? And like, I ended up connecting with a bunch of guys. Shout out to Brian, Imran, Chris, and Matthew Keel. So you guys know Matt. We started the Platinum Achievement podcast. I was looking it up because I forgot how long ago. It was 4 years ago where I really started the first long running podcast. We did about 50 episodes. I don't think it was weekly. Now I forget. But we did about 50 episodes. Lasted, I want to say, at least 2 years. And it was the longest running thing we did. We had a lot of success for it for what we were doing at the time. And the cool thing about it is we were all spread out. So it was like, here's the perspective of talking about Xbox and PlayStation primarily, and talking about from views from all around. So I represented Chicago, Brian Lavos represented New York, and then we had Imran in Leicester and Chris in Beirut, Lebanon, and Matt in Philadelphia. And it was just great, and we all had a great time with it. The next one I did was Switch Talk, again, just a Switch focused show. Shout out to David and Clay, very good friends, best buds. Like, we're just loving the Switch, so we decided to start that show. And that got rough because we were overproducing and not having enough time. So now I am officially part of Megadads and the Nintendo Village. So the Nintendo Village is doing it a little differently because how we were talking about creating the content and wishing you had an editor.
Mm-hmm.
The real idea is, as we all started content creating, we, like Ed was saying, you learn everything what's going on behind the scenes, all the work that's involved in doing it, depending on how you release, where you release, who's doing the editing, do we do it live, do we do it pre-recorded, like who's losing the files as soon as we're done with the show and then we got to record again. We've all had these problems, guys. And you learn. I studied marketing and video production, and I self-taught this because this is what I do for a living. So I have used my skills in the podcast world, but a lot of people just have learned, but not because they do this for work, but just because they do it for the content. Like I want to make video stuff. So it's pretty amazing. And I am in the Nintendo Village. It's like the group forming a larger group like you're doing. It's like, let's have a team, so it's not just one guy doing the podcast, at least a co-host, if not a third guy to rotate in when the baby's crying for the other guy, or one guy falls asleep and he doesn't make the episode. You know what I'm talking about. And it's just like, you have that backup, and it's a division of labor, and let's build a brand where everybody's doing a little bit. So the Nintendo Village is doing game reviews, article features, our website, check it out. It's Village Nintendo. Or sorry, the Twitter is @VillageNintendo. @VillageNintendo. Check it out, nintendovillage.com. And it's just a great place. We have a bunch of people on the team writing, creating. We're about to kick off a new streaming initiative and get streaming done on the regular. And then the Megadads, who originally have been, check them out @Megadads blog, @Megadads blog. Megadads Live is their podcast, and it's just two brothers, Adam and John, and they're from Minnesota. They love games. They're old curmudgeons. They hate everything that's new. It's beautiful. They're sharing everything about gamer life meets real life. And it's all parenting jokes and, poop humor, and I love it. And they talk about games, and they do their show once a month, which is very inspiring because they found a solution in the way that, hey, we're not going to kill ourselves and do it weekly, but we don't mind if the game we're talking about released 4 weeks ago. Like if you're a parent, that's, you're not up to the day on every release, so that's okay. And I love their personalities, and I love the humor, and I love the show. And they ended up opening their passion, which is Megadads, to other people. So they said, we'd love to have you create for us. So I'm currently doing some reviews and article features for them, helping them with some marketing. And it's wild because it was just two brothers for years, and they built this thing up from nobody listening, which they share all the time. And then eventually, after years, people starting to show some type of interest. And for them to go that route speaks a lot to the idea of, hey, share your passion and don't put everything on your own shoulders. Build a team and, make sure that it stays fun. So they added 3 people. So they go from 2 to 5, which I never thought they'd do. I'm like, you're literally brothers. It's kind of a closed system there, So I'm like, I can't believe that you would open that up to other people and share that. So I'm honored to be part of Megadads now. I asked them, I'm like, am I like a assistant producer? Like, what should I call myself? They're like, no, you're a Megadad now. And I was like, oh, we're expecting our first child in like 4 weeks. So it was very heartfelt, very touching. And yeah, it's just amazing. That's my journey. You go from these games, and it's a toy, but it's also such a big part of your life, and you start connecting with people, and the technology has grown up right along with it. And then the culture, from gaming award shows to podcasts to streaming to every aspect. There's esports, and like Greg Miller and them, they talk about it all the time. But like, we know nothing about that side. And it's like, it's esports, it's gaming at a professional level, but they know nothing about it. And that's possible because there's so much going on. You could be into cosplay only. You could be into, audio podcasts only. You could just, there's so much going on. Like, you can do your own online publication that's going to be the next EGM, but for, indie published. It's incredible. And I love it. And when I meet people, I can connect with them if they enjoy gaming or have played games. And God bless my wife. Like one of the reasons I started content creating is because I would talk to her so much, and she'd stare at me blankly. I've been talking for like 30 minutes about this
I know
system.
that
She's
stare.
like, so what's the Switch?
Yeah.
Okay. But she's really great about it. Like I'll be talking to her now and she's like, oh yeah, that's the so-and-so publisher. I'm like, I love you so much. Like
I know.
she's like, I've been listening. They're great.
I know that stare very well.
So,
I gotta talk to my wife, and like the only game she ever played was Tetris, right? And like I got her to play Mario Kart with me, and she started enjoying Mario Kart, but then she's just like, I'm either messaging Ed or the group chat about games, but when I'm not talking to them, like I see something, I'm like, oh, did you hear about that? Then I'm like, oh wait, no, you didn't, because you don't care, but you love me anyway, so you're gonna listen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to try to support.
And she's like,
yeah,
like
they're so nice. I had to start podcasting because if not, my wife would have went crazy. That's like why. That's one of the big reasons why. So yeah, that's my journey in a nutshell. I mean, I look back. I was just thinking the other day because I was playing Age of Empires, and I talked to my wife, of course, and I was like, yeah, Age of Empires, they're coming out with a new one. They came out with a definitive edition of Age of Empires 2, and I played that as one of my first PC games, and like Half-Life's coming out, and just talking to her about this whole segment of my gaming life of the first couple PC games I ever got into, and just having that nostalgia. And we're getting hit with Final Fantasy VII Remake and all these things that really shaped my love for different genres or different like franchises, and it's just amazing, and I love it. And as my daughter is on the way, I hope she loves it too. I was gonna buy this video game controller toy 3 months ago that I saw, and I'm like, it's gonna be a full year until she's able to even touch it, so I'm gonna leave it alone for now.
You're talking about the one with the smiley face and like
my God,
one stick,
yeah.
and like yep, I got it. We have it. She loves it.
I was gonna buy it. I was like, we have other stuff that I should buy for her right now, so I didn't. But you hope that you raise them right, and one day I will buy her, I don't know, an Xbox 8000 or whatever it's called.
Oh, wow.
It is kind of like. It's weird trying to like convince like your wife that games are good and they're good for like motor skills and puzzle solving, and you know what I mean? Like it's just like
it is.
She's like, all right, show me. You boot up GTA and it's like
that's the wrong one.
Why is that lady getting in that car?
Oh, no.
Why is the car shaking? Oh no,
Daddy, no. They're hugging hard.
Corey, do you have questions for Antonio?
I have a few from me, and then there's a couple from Twitter that I'll pull up.
Hit me with that good stuff. Hit it. Let's hit it together, guys. Okay.
There it is.
Wait, Corey.
Yeah.
If you're not getting the shirt off, at least take off the hat. Give me a little skin.
No,
give me a little skin, brother.
I'm sorry. His hat is.
It's glued to my head.
Yeah, it's the representation of Corey's personality. Like,
all right. You got it. You got one.
So, all right, we covered. Who are you? What was your first game?
Can you do 1v1 like this? Because I did it at the beginning of the show, and I was proud of myself.
See, we can't do that. We can't do the X because that's Arsenal
X. We gotta throw up the X.
This is V right here. V 1v1.
Yeah, but we used to do this for the X.
Yeah, that's too low. You got to do it at the bottom. Do it at the base.
It's like like this. This is great for an audio show. By the way.
1v1. 1v1.
Daddy,
those scissors are too happy. All right. What's the question?
Okay, I do have a question for you.
All right, wrap it.
When did you know that video games were going to be a major part of your adult life?
I think that there's a time where they stop being quote unquote cool right around right after grade school, probably, where you're in high school and some people get into just sports or TV or coitus and things like that, and if you don't, then you kind of stick with it. And when games matured a little bit, I want to say that around the time where it gets harder to connect with people about your hobby, which is right around high school, college area, that's when you knew, right? I mean, I remember you either were a Halo fanatic in college or you were just like, I don't play games. You were one or the other. And I think right around that time, I don't know when I knew that I was going to stick with it as long as possible. I couldn't nail it down, but some of the most influential games that really took it from, oh, I'm just playing with a toy or having, fun to the next level was probably Metal Gear, where Kojima was hitting us with Psycho Mantis and just like this isometric kind of perspective and this next level immersive gameplay. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy X. Funny enough, I think Final Fantasy X hit me right when I was like puberty and like thinking about girls, and the Titus Una romance was like, this is what it's meant to be, and like that hit me hard. And all these games that really brought things up to the next level. And if you don't get that, if you don't get these masterpiece games, I don't know if gaming keeps going. Could you imagine if there weren't people out there pushing it to the next level? Could you imagine if, let's just say, everything was a mid-tier for a while, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, things would dry up. You really need those that, and they have. God bless the developers,
I told Corey we did a Nintendo Power Block, talking about the memory of Iwata, and I literally told them, I'm just like, if Miyamoto passed away, I feel like that's the end of video games.
Whoa!
Because
the end of video games. Holy
because
shit.
I'm like, what other
That's
creator?
very optimistic about the future.
What other creator, when it comes to about video games, do we really talk about? We still talk about Miyamoto and his creations and what he's done for the industry and his history and stuff. Like, there's not so many developers we could put on that same level as Miyamoto.
There's Miyamoto status, but then there's like Iga and Kojima. Yeah. I would put on a certain level, probably a little bit below Miyamoto, right? Or Ken Levine, people talk about, Neil Druckmann, Amy Hennig, like people talk about them. I think people are starting to really recognize the creators behind these games as, putting a face to the games now instead of, oh, this game was made mystically in Japan. You just, like when you go to play Ninja Gaiden or something and it's like all these names because like they didn't use their real names in the credits and you're like, oh, made in Japan. It's crazy. But like
it was a while when the developer was even like, all right, who? But like it was just like, this is a Japanese game, period. Like, yeah. It was either like a first party published whatever or Japanese, and that was it.
Right. Yeah. But like for me, like just watching that episode and seeing it, because Corey said I'm a little bit optimistic about the futures of video games, and I don't try to be optimistic. I try to say that if you're going to market all of this stuff, it needs to come out on day one. You can't say that this thing is going to be 40K 60 and then we get it and be like, well, it's going to come later down or 4K.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Let's go 40K.
I mean, doing 4K 60, like if when the actual stuff come out, the actual system come out, and they'd be like, well, it's going to come down later on in the line, or Digital Foundry like does something and be like, this is not true 4K or something like that. It's gonna be like, what is with this marketing that you guys are doing to bring players in? Like if you're using that for console makers to bring people into games and stuff, you have to deliver if you're going to continue to promise on this. Stadia kind of proves that in a sense. Everybody thought streaming was the future of gaming, but it's Stadia's making an example of what streaming is versus Project X Cloud. What's going to happen with gaming in the future if you guys as companies going to rely on this? and don't deliver what you marketing. So that's my only optimism for a little bit. And that's try not, like I said, I try not to be optimistic, but it's just
You
like,
should be optimistic.
well,
You don't have to be optimistic. Don't tell him. Don't tell him what to do. It's okay, Ed. You be however you want.
well, I think that's
He's a
why
peacock. You gotta let him fly.
I think that's why a lot of people get on me on why I go for Nintendo, because I'm like, whatever Nintendo shows me and talks about, that's what they're gonna deliver. I I really haven't seen much of them going back or of announcing anything too early, and they went back on it hardware wise. You know, they didn't promise 4K and 100. They just show this is what our concept is, our idea, and this is how we think of playing games in the future. And that's all they stated. They didn't state anything about the technical kind of stuff.
What I think that gaming has more potential than ever. As we can see, there are some technologies with streaming, and not only streaming, but other things like graphically, ray tracing, but this photorealism technology where you can scan a room and make it into an environment with not a whole lot of work. Like there's a lot of processing that's a lot of work taken out of the process, right? And these things are going to help make games quicker, better, faster, give people the opportunity to focus on other things. And I think that I see a bright future. I see a lot of developers, a lot of indie people pushing the boundaries, learning. And I think gaming isn't going anywhere. And as a parent, I'm going to embrace the handheld future, whether it is, more Switch type stuff or streaming stuff. And there will be others. There will be the next Miyamoto. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to say that. Because like I said, we rely on people. We rely on the passionate people who start out playing games, who learn, persevere, and really give us the next BioShock, the next Final Fantasy Online, the next, all these things that I love. And there will be more. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll pull up some more questions then. That was a... All right. So we kind of covered all this, blah, blah, blah. This is great radio. How do you think your child is going to affect the content you make and the time you take to make content?
Me?
Yeah.
My child? How is it? Well, okay.
Yeah, so how is the child going to affect your content? Are you going to approach it differently? Because, like, I think, like, for me, as an example, like, not really content, but, like, I was playing God of War, right? I played it before I had my daughter, and then I played it after I had my daughter, and it kind of shifted perspectives for me, right? Just because, like, seeing Kratos as a dad and then putting myself in his shoes instead of, still kind of not having a kid. I was kind of like Atreus. I was trying to, like, I don't know, I kind of had my mindset through his eyes instead of Kratos. But when I had my daughter, I went back and played it, and playing it through Kratos's eyes, like, I kind of approached the content I was making as something that, like, I don't want my daughter to go back and watch some of the stuff that we've done. Like, I'm just not gonna lie. Like, it's just kind of like, there's some of it on there that I'm just like, maybe not. I don't know. But, like, I've kind of taken that approach to, like, I want her to see that, like, I made this post on Instagram the other day. Like, I want her to see that we're making stuff and doing what we want to do. And I want her to be proud someday that, we've done really cool stuff together, and see how we grew as people and how we grew as content creators and writers and podcasters and stuff. And, like, I'm not saying she's going to be super into any of that, right? Like, I don't really care if she is, but, like, I want her to know that, like, we put a lot of time and effort and growth into the stuff that we're making. And I've shifted the way I think about the content we're making and how we're doing it. And You know, like I've really in the last couple years, I've really avoided cursing on content. Now, I'm not saying that I don't drop, you know, an F-bomb here or there or some other choice words, but, you know, I am kind of cognizant of that and, you know, trying to stay positive on content instead of trashing content, you know, that kind of thing. So that's just kind of the example. So how do you think your content's going to change or be affected by having a child?
You know, Corey, that's really deep. And you saying that makes me wish that I wasn't chest naked right now. My daughter has no chance of not being embarrassed by me. That's what my wife says. That's what I know. And she's going to find this. And I'm sorry. All right, baby. My bad. I'm sure once I have my baby, I'll be thinking more maturely and thinking about stuff like that in the long term. But we sat down with a mentor couple from our church, and they gave us a little pie chart. And they're like, okay, all we want you to do is write down your day and split it up the way you spend it, and, you know, what you guys, you know, do with your time. So it's like, all right, you know, you did dinner, you did work, you did driving, you know, cleaning, like all that. And they're like, all right, where's the baby? And I'm like, oh, shit, no. Oh, and there was no space. And they're like, just to let you know, things are going to change and you have to think about that. So I've thought about it a lot. And you only have so many hours in the day. Quickly, Ed, before Game Pass, and this whole era of like everything's free and free to play, how many games do you buy a year? Usually.
How many? For me personally,
yeah, think back to like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, like back in the day.
We're not pretty much about 50 games per year.
Jesus. All right, Corey. Damn, Eddie.
I didn't buy nearly that many games last year.
Okay,
but like
so
before,
that's wild.
Before my kid was born, and you know, playing free games that are really fun, like, you know, Apex or Fortnite, like playing free games or Game Pass and all that kind of stuff. And my kid, I would say probably. It's hard because I used to like try to buy all the Nintendo games that I could because we were doing a Nintendo show, so that kind of skews it.
Yeah,
Probably like I would say maybe 30
a year. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would do max 1 or 2 a month and then some indie stuff. So yeah, it's like 12 to 24, somewhere in the middle there. So probably more like, you know, 15, 16 games a year. But we are the exception. Period. The point I was trying to make is limited time, limited money. Mm-hmm. If you're a gamer or gamer/content creator, it takes time to do all these things. In order to get a taste of a game, I argue that for most games, you could get your good impression in about 6 hours. You know, like, unless it's some craziness where the game totally changes in the last third, which happens, and I love when it does. Most of the time, it's a loop. And, you know, maybe there's a story arc, maybe there's not a good story arc, and there's no payoff, and you just pay it for 50 hours.
I think it also depends on the technical difficulty.
It depends on a lot, yeah.
And the gameplay control, because you could be like, oh, I want to experience this game for 6 hours, but I cannot control this thing because this physics is wrong. This gameplay don't make no sense. They don't let me customize my controller. There might be other factors.
So let's just say you play 30 games a year, and like every game that you bought, do you beat games usually? We already know you don't. I mean, we know the backlog challenge.
For me, I do. I try to get through most of the game before a new game comes out. And sometimes I'm researching by playing like a game that I already beat or haven't started. I'll go in and research it for a topic or something like that. Yeah. So I have various things, but I do try to beat them all the way.
Like Breath of the Wild, right,
Ed? So let's just say that you spend, let's say 30 games a year, right? 30 games a year, and let's just say 30 hours, right? That's us, like our level-ish. 900 hours, okay? So 37 days. Like, that's basically 1 month out of the year playing games. All of that to say is that there's limited time, there's limited resources. I know this, and I have told myself that if I pick something up like Mega Dads and Nintendo Village and my own streaming and everything that I'm doing, I have to be realistic. So I have been planning for the whole time we've been preparing for her, knowing and telling myself that I am going to push for half an hour a day to an hour a day. And I know that that's going to be a big struggle because it's hard to even get that. So I need to be able to make niche content, doing only the best stuff that I love to do. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be my minimum is an hour a day. And I'm hoping with the loving support of my wife to carve out a regular gaming session, which I consider between, about 3-4 hours, at least once a week, if not twice. And that's going to have to be it. I mean, you can't, and even that, I'm sure some parents out there is like, ha, you fool. You're not going to get an hour a day. You crazy. So I'm going to
Here's the thing though, like especially the first 2 or 3 months, I actually played a lot more games than I did previously because
tell me the secret.
She
open up for it.
She just lays there, right? She can't move, and she sleeps. No, she slept a lot, she ate a lot, and she kind of just
Ed, who am I?
Because she just kind of laid there, right? And I had the Switch, and I would hold her while she was sleeping and play the Switch, and it was actually a really fun way to experience games a little bit, right? Because
you're lucky though. What were you gonna do if the Switch wasn't around? Play a Vita? What's wrong with you?
It's different. It's different with me because on my days off, I could spend a whole day going through a whole game, get 75% done, and then the next day before I have to go to work, I can still play.
Yeah, brag about it. Ed. Thanks.
Yeah, how many kids you got? All right, get off our back.
But I don't have a child. I don't have a relationship, so I have time to focus on doing content.
Ed's doing it right. We messed up.
He's making those life choices.
But I would but if I was into a relationship, I would just my time with gaming would have to change because I would have to balance making content with you guys or making content for myself, playing games, and also dealing with a relationship. Like I said earlier, sacrificing is a big thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that my wife kind of supports me in all this, right? I know that she does a lot more than I do because of this, right? And she knows how much we want to succeed at this and do this, right? And she puts up with a lot and she does a lot and she helps a lot, right? Where I'm prepping a huge kind of marketing, our first marketing push for this. It's the first time we're actually doing a semi-proper marketing campaign, and she's helping me because they run their own business, and I'm kind of applying what they're doing to our needs, right? And my wife and her sister run their own business for context, and they run social media campaigns a lot. And Antonio, you messaged me about making Facebook ads and stuff, and I went to school for graphic design and marketing and stuff, so I'm trying to fit all these pieces together to try to put together our first major marketing push, and she helps a lot more than even Ed knows or Ray or Jesse know, right? She helps a lot. So and not just with the content itself, but taking our daughter into the other room while I'm podcasting, or feeding her while I'm trying to stream something, or you know what I mean. She does a lot, and I probably don't tell her enough, but
you better, damn it, go buy her flowers right now.
I did yesterday.
There you go. All right.
So, but yeah. Anyways, let's go to Twitter. There's some Twitter questions.
I love tweets. I'm on Twitter probably too much. Every time I go to the bathroom, every time I cook, every time I do anything, I'm always sanitizing my phone with some alcohol spray. Don't worry about it.
That's how Facebook was with me. I was always on Facebook, and then Twitter happened, and
The Bad Bitches podcast. We're having them on tomorrow night, so that's going to be live streamed. That's going to be live streamed. It's going to be super. Let's just say it's not the traditional content we usually provide, but it should be a good time. They ask, what is the best deal you've ever gotten while buying a video game? Bang for buck.
I was thinking about this, and I couldn't get away from thinking about free to play because I know the question was specifically mentioned buying, but I think that regardless, I tried to think of amount of fun and time that I put into gaming, and I have put, I could be lying because I don't remember off the top of my head, hundreds of hours into Apex. And Apex Legends came out out of the blue, no marketing. I just jumped in and recognized how solid of a shooter it is. And I love, the battle royale genre. And it gets me going. I love the rush of winning, losing. And I've played that game for hundreds of hours and didn't need to, but ended up spending, I had like gaming credit, so I spent $60-$70 in a pop once, and then probably like $20 $30 on battle passes. So I wanted to support the developer though, because it was such a solid experience. But other than that, I would have to say that probably the Halo franchise and first person shooters that really got me addicted, that gave me the bang for the buck. And this was probably before a lot of the DLC craze hit. So if you want to think about like Modern Warfare 2 or Halo, things like that. Other than that, I was thinking about Super Smash Brothers N64, because those cartridges right now are being sold for anywhere between $60 to $100 because they're not making them anymore, but they're awesome. I've walked into parties like last year, and you just walk in and there's an N64 setup with 4 controllers, and people are just doing their thing and rotating into the game because it was our childhood. It was such a craze. It's such a pick up and play, and we played that incredible, like so many matches of Smash, and you look at the limited roster and you're like, wow, we were happy. We loved it.
Now we're mad when they add a 7th Fire Emblem character.
Hey, Adam, they want to.
Hey man, I like Fire Emblem. They can add as many Fire Emblem characters as they want.
Like I said,
Master Chief and Smash.
Folks gonna add him, and they're gonna learn him, and you'll see him in tournaments.
Well, my Byleth is a woman, so
yeah, don't be sexist.
Yeah.
So I would say that there's a lot of value in games. Going more old school, I would say like a Halo, Elder Scrolls, things that they really blow your mind when some of these games just release at 60. It's a full price game, but it's deep, and it's gonna be 300 hours.
Like,
you know what
Assassin's
I mean?
Creed Odyssey or The Witcher 3.
RPGs. Oh, dude, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I only dipped my toe in, but it is my game, and I
only dipped my toe in for 65 hours.
Oh man, dude!
And
you're not anywhere near. You're not anywhere near. Imagine these games, and the thing about Assassin's Creed Odyssey in particular is the map is huge, a lot of missions and all that, and then they came out with DLC, and I was like, whoa, you didn't have to,
but you gotta. You gotta
pay DLC, but still.
You gotta think of how much is repetition that you did that mission.
Does he downplay Odyssey?
I have Odyssey. I have Origins.
Did you just say Odyssey suffers from repetition?
I said it depends on the game and repetition. How much of a game has repetition?
I mean, don't you put Odyssey in that? Because yes, it has. Every game has mission structure, find this, kill that, but the voice acting and narrative tie-in to side missions in that game, that's what really separates it from, that's what keeps it from feeling like it's not repetitive. I was very impressed. But anyway, I would say RPGs and shooters usually. Yeah. A lot of value in those for me.
Nice. Okay, our last question comes from our friend, Deshaun Malone.
Deshaun, what up?
He says
was very nice on Twitter.
He is. He's the man. He actually lives close to me. I've run into him a few times. Yeah, he's
You
cool
just
dude.
see him randomly on the street.
Sometimes.
Yeah!
No, I saw him at Aldi one time, and I saw him at Giant Eagle getting a movie out of Redbox one time. He says, "What is your favorite gaming memory?"
Can't do this to me.
Yeah. I didn't ask a question.
Top of my mind has to be. It just has to be Final Fantasy X. It just has to be. And there's like 4 moments. The voice acting contributed to a love story in that game that brought that series to the next level, because there wasn't full voice acting in that franchise up until that point. And the story of Titus and Yuna and just them connecting. There's a scene where, and it's like a cringe moment now. It's like a funny thing on the internet where they're laughing together.
Yeah, but like people make fun of that moment, but when in the context of the story and the way that it's like given to the player, like it's endearing. It is. She is struggling with a lot of weight of responsibility, and he is not understanding of the culture because he's new to the world and what she's doing, and her sense of duty clashes with eventually really, really big with like what his understanding and value of who she is. And that moment is getting her to kind of lighten up in this very kind of bleak journey that they're on. And that moment, the second moment, would be when she kind of breaks and she is cracking under the emotional weight of what's going to be demanded of her, and she starts to cry. And I think it's a cut scene, and they're together in this pool of water, and she's crying, he's just hugging her, and it was such a heartfelt moment, one of the most heartfelt moments in any game. But again, this is the same game, so that's the second moment.
That's for you.
Then the end, where there's just like moments of sacrifice and just surprises toward the end, and character reveals of, plot points and twists. And there's a moment, which is my current PlayStation home screen, of this moment right before one of the final battles, and they're just kind of camped out, and there's a song that goes along with this moment called To Xanarkin. And it's another funny thing on the internet. It's like, if anybody plays piano or plays any video game music on demand, do not ask for To Xanarkin. It's like kind of saying like, do not request for Freebird, because it's so popular. It's my phone ringtone.
Really?
Yes. And
I thought everything from Final Fantasy VII is popular over 10, music wise.
I think that's the only standout song from 10, but it's by far the most, for me anyway. It's a beautiful song, To Xanarkin, and it's a story moment and a story beat where it's like a calm before the storm. And the game wraps up with a montage that made me cry. So I would say yes. In short, Final Fantasy X. And it's not a perfect game. The pacings are kind of off through a lot of it, but it broke a lot of new ground at the time, and pushed technology at the time, and voice acting at the time, and brought things to an emotion level at the time. And I was like this preteen who was like sappy for all that crap, like I said. So it really stuck with me.
I've never felt any kind of emotion through any of the Final Fantasy games.
Did you play Final Fantasy X? You hated it?
I beat it. I beat it on PlayStation 2.
You didn't like it, so you have no heart.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for
you
what
got
it
no
was.
soul.
I went through the whole game, experienced it. I'm just like, okay, that was a good.
You
that
heartless
was a good
bastard.
game.
All right, next question.
No. If you like I think the Last Guardian. I always talk about the Last Guardian, and the relationship between Trico and the boy is literally emotional, heartfelt. Like, you, throughout that whole game, you really feel for these two. Like, you really feel for their adventure, and their adventure really matters. And this is just me, and I think that's why I feel like nothing was wrong with Final Fantasy. Great points that you gave. Love all those moments in Final Fantasy X. but I was just like emotionally, I'm more connected to The Last Guardian, because of what it did. And the thing about Final Fantasy is just like I want to grind and make my characters powerful so I can fight the next boss. I think if I had to pick anything from Final Fantasy X, it's Aura.
That's cool.
The moment that something happens to him close to the end.
That's what I was talking about. That was my third point about the twist.
Yeah.
His twist was like
that.
I sit there shocked because like you can walk away to like continue the game, or you can like stick right there to just kind of like, okay, I need a minute, and like it lets you have that and just lets you continue when you're ready. I'm like, oh my god, dude.
The two people I cared about.
I'm gonna cry right now. Stop it.
The two people I cared for about Final Fantasy 2 was Aura and Lulu.
Oh my god, dude.
Lulu was my girl.
Dude,
That's
Lulu
my girl.
And Waka, dude. That was the sub romance plot.
Or
wait,
I didn't really care for
did
Waka.
they ever
No.
connect? They didn't connect in that game. In the next one, you find out that they were knocking boots, right? She's like pregnant.
They kind of did towards the end, like you could tell.
They must have, because in the second one they did the
like,
sequel, which wasn't that good, but she's pregnant in the next one.
Yeah, like
with his baby.
Yeah, when you go into like that final cutscene where like she's kind of like missing.
Dude, it was so emotional. Like, take it back, man. You're ruining my night. All right, keep going.
Like you see Waka
most beloved.
put his.
No, I know you're.
You see Waka put his arm around Lulu, I think, and then you just kind of like
touched her shoulder.
Emotions running high.
No, that's right. I mean, it's everybody has their thing. Like I know, like I keep saying, it probably had something to do with my age and adolescence and all that. And maybe you like animals, maybe you like bird dogs in real life, and that's why you like, The Last Guardian. Like Corey, what's yours?
I mean,
do you like crying? Walking Dead, I didn't finish, so I can't say that.
I didn't finish Walking Dead either. I don't even think I've ever played it, like an episode. But I think the first time I really kind of got emotional about a game was probably Final Fantasy X also.
Oh my god, see,
but
come on.
Also like Kingdom Hearts I was kind of emotional too, because like I played 1 and 2 kind of back to back, and like just watching that, like I as a big Disney fan, and just that's how I got into it. And then obviously like all the things that happen, and at the end when Sora finds the bottle in the water and reads the message in a bottle and goes off looking for, and like, the scene before that where I think Mickey kind of locks himself in the darkness to save Sora, and and then he gets the letter to go find him, and that's how Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, I guess, is what the next one is, but then leading into Kingdom Hearts 2, and
it's
when
I was about to say the music of Kingdom Hearts.
Dude, Sanctuary gets me. Sanctuary gets me every time.
And Simple and Clean, like those two songs. Like everybody jokes about it, but if you hear Simple and Clean or you hear Sanctuary, everybody is singing it. Like people make sure that Utada was in Kingdom Hearts.
The new Kingdom Hearts, this new song for 3 is actually pretty good too.
She actually came back to make music, and I own both albums. I love Utada.
with Skrillex, as they say.
When Donald Duck dies in that game, I think it's like super emotional. Goofy's like holding him. He's like, "Hang in there, little buddy." Oh yeah, and he's like, "I'm dying." Like it was like really heartfelt.
Spoiler alert for people who haven't beat Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah. I didn't beat Kingdom Hearts 3 yet.
I haven't. I didn't beat it.
It's all right. But that's all the Twitter questions we have. But
yay! Good job, Twitter.
Can't do it without you. Is there anything like? Is there anything you like really want to do besides what you're doing now? Is there like a plan or a goal that you want to do besides what you've already told us you're doing? Like is there like a master kind of plan that's stuck in your head that you're like, I would love to do this at some point? It's
funny because when you connect with, I don't have many goals in life, right? And I met Greg Miller at Portillo's in near Chicago last year, so I could die happy. I don't know. Like I when I joined the Mega Dads, like my wife's was like, I told her like, hey, you know, I might have this opportunity to, you know, be part of the team and help them with stuff. She's all like, that's what you've always wanted, and I realized like I never told her that. I never. Like it was never a thing. She just knew I was a fan. I mean, I'm like, these two brothers do a podcast. It's a gaming thing. And she's like, this is what you always wanted. And I realized that it was. And I'm like, I did want to be part of this because I really like the content so much. So it was kind of a goal I didn't know I had. I just think that they do a very polished podcast. They have a lot of great content. And again, everybody has their niche. Some people don't like Greg Miller. I know Adam doesn't like Greg Miller's like screaming and his tone and stuff, his energy, because they're a little more calm. And it's funny because everybody has their thing. So I think that being a part of a positive gaming indie content creator community is some of the best goals that you can have. Because in this world, what do we have? You know what I mean? You can't even say you have your health anymore. That's a crapshoot. All right, we're all dying. We're all infected already, okay? The Walking Dead, spoiler alert, we're all dying. So it's like having good friends, having a good time. I would love to do what I'm continuing to do, which is try to have at least one regular game night with friends and you know, reviewing some games, being part of these community creator sites like Mega Dads, like Nintendo Village, and feeling like you're part of something and building stuff with others is very fulfilling for me. I try to help people with their graphic design, with their audio bumpers, with their Twitch overlays, with their stuff, because I want to use my skills and talents to help people start a podcast or make things a little better or help you market and stuff like that. That energizes me as well. So, you know, aside from that, what really could you ask for? I'm very blessed. I have my first little baby coming. I'm sure that's going to be awesome, and the world's going to revolve around her. And, you know, I thank God for all the blessings. And I think that that's pretty much it. I'm very humbled to be where I am. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what's next specifically, but I do hope to keep up at least one or two things I have ready to release pretty soon that have been in the pot for like 2 years, just trying to refine like a real niche thing that I can do on the regular while being a parent. So it has to be like a perfect mix. So yeah, more things to come from Hypecaster, at Hypecaster on Twitter, at Hypecaster.
What was that? I didn't hear that. One more time.
At Hypecaster. All one word.
Well, I guess you did all the plugs. Well, everybody, thank you once again, Antonio, for joining us for this 1v1. If you guys would like to be on 1v1 or any of our other content here at Boss Rush Games, you can find us on Twitter at _rush_games, or you can email us at bossrushgamespro@gmail.com. Check out our other shows, Standard Definition, Boss Rush Podcast, Nintendo Power Block, more 1v1, and other shows that is coming to the network. Once again, thank you, boss, for joining us, for producing the show.
Hey, I just want to say, look, Antonio, I know you got a lot on your plate coming up, but you have an open seat on any of our shows you want to come on. You just drop me a line and we'll make room for you. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Yay. And with that, everybody, have a great week. Have a great weekend whenever you hear this. And as always, let's all play games and be better to one another. With that, everybody, we will see you next time on 1v1. Bye, everybody. Flex!